Today, I'm joined by Liz Sanders. She is an experienced Amazon seller and entrepreneur. She spent years working for Jungle Scout, making her way up towards the top, chief of staff, a big position, and ran her own marketing agency and now created her own agency software play in the influencer space. She is now helping Amazon influencers and brands find products and synergistic relationships to work together. So Liz, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Ryan, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Definitely. One of the first things I know we were just talking about is influencers versus affiliates. Can you tell us what that means to you?
Absolutely. So specifically in the Amazon space, when they named the influencer program, it created a little bit of confusion. So inside of the associates program for Amazon, we have affiliates, and those are the people that everybody thinks about. They're driving traffic from TikTok, from Instagram, from YouTube, wherever they have an audience to your product listing, right? But the influencers are actually the people who are approved by Amazon to create content that lives on the Amazon platform. So think your product listing, search results, the Inspire feed. And those are, for the Amazon purposes, influencers. So whenever I start talking about influencers, I like to pull apart that everybody in this space is a content creator. The affiliates are driving traffic, and the influencers are helping brands on Amazon convert the traffic.
Definitely. And how much of your work, when you talk about, I know influencers, they can be posting, like you said, the Inspire page on Amazon. How much are these influencers posting exclusively there versus their own TikTok or Instagram page? What does that look like?
Yeah, so most of the content creators that I work with are in the influencer program. I would say probably like 70% of what they're doing is on site specifically, or that it is driven from being on site, and then they will repurpose and post elsewhere, right? There's probably 20-30% of them who are, their main focus is YouTube or TikTok, and then they're doing stuff on site. But most of the people that I work with are doing product research on Amazon, trying to find really good opportunities for products that they can create content for that lives on Amazon, but then they can also repurpose on their other socials.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd love to back up for a second and hear influencers as a problem niche. How did you get into that? How did you determine that that was something that needed fixing with your company?
Absolutely. Like we talked about, I started as an Amazon seller, right? Like in 2016, and sold disposable rain ponchos for kids, but very quickly then started working at Jungle Scout early on. And because it was my tool of choice, went over there, worked a lot in the seller space. And then a friend of mine came to me and was like, hey, influencer is really cool. You should try this. So I started playing with it, and coming from the seller space where we have tools for everything, right? Like I hadn't clicked in and out of a product listing in years for research. And in the influencer space, there were no tools. And so it very quickly became apparent. I'm a big believer that no matter which program you work in Amazon, that it's about product research. If you're doing merch, you're doing KDP, you're doing print on demand, you're doing selling, you're doing influencer, you're doing affiliate. It all, if you're focused on Amazon specifically, comes down to your product research, because there's something in the space that is making one product a better opportunity than another. So I just kind of like, after having spent 10 years or 6 years helping sellers make good decisions with their product research at Jungle Scout, was like, oh my gosh, I need to help content creators make good decisions about the content they're creating for Amazon. And so that was the beginning of the Chrome extension, Fluencer Fruit.
So was that your idea at first, go to the Chrome extension as the solution to it?
Yep. Yeah, because having worked in the seller space, especially with Jungle Scout, it was like, oh,
Right.
we can very quickly pull all of this information onto the search results page and into a dropdown for the tool and make it much, much faster. And we've built more functionality now in Creator Hub and a couple other places that is helpful. But the V1, the very first thing that we went live with, was the extension for the search results page.
Interesting. Just like Jungle Scout. Right there.
Yeah.
And as I assume you're a non-technical founder like myself, what was that process like, actually getting your ideas into something tangible online?
I don't know if you learned any really hard lessons the way that I did.
I did. I got scammed a couple times.
I actually had a couple friends from Jungle Scout who were very instrumental in me making a couple good choices and a couple things that I didn't run past them that I ended up being like, So I'd read enough product roadmaps where I felt very comfortable like writing what I wanted to happen next. But one of my friends was like, make sure you own the GitHub repo. One of the best pieces of advice I got. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to own the GitHub repo. So I went and did that. And in my mind, I knew that like writing out what I need to be very specific because whatever team I hire is going to write exactly what I tell them to, good, bad, or indifferent. And so the thing that I forgot to include when I wrote out my initial roadmap was that I wanted to be paid for the subscriptions. And so they built the extension. It was beautiful, exactly what I wanted, with no way to pay me for it.
Interesting.
So I could give it away all day. You could sign up, all those things, but there was no way to pay for it. So I had to go back and be like, oh, my bad. Can you also build me a way for people to pay me for this? And they did, and it moved forward and everything else. Being a non-technical founder, like I have to pay somebody to check the code for me. So I have like 2 layers now where a team writes it and then I have somebody who comes in, does the review, also at the advice of a friend from Jungle Scout who was like, you should also do that.
And your company, it's unique that I know there's other influencer or affiliate markets out there, and I want to get to what's different about you. But you also kind of have the agency side. What is different about that, and why is that make these brands more successful?
Yeah, so I started very specifically in the on-site space. And as far as I know, there's not another agency doing on-site content as a service. So that initially makes me stand out. I actually white label for a couple agencies who they don't want to go start an on-site portion to their business. So they just utilize me as a pass-through for their on-site content. The other thing is my platform actually does not, like the SaaS portion, the extension does not serve sellers, right? So the sellers, I just joke like I'm the white glove service. If you've already tried the DIY, reaching out on your own or used one of the platforms where somebody has or hasn't gotten back to you, like that's me. I have over 200 creators in my agency who I have vetted and I work with. And so you just come and say, hey, I want 5 videos for my product listing. And I say, okay. And then we take care of everything for you. So I'm definitely like the white glove. The number one problem that I solve from people who have tried it before is if I send my product, sometimes they don't create any content for me. How do I solve that? That's me. And the other one is back and forth. And this is actually a shared pain point for content creators as well as for brands, where when the brand is trying to get a hold of the content creator, a lot of times it's maybe not their only job, right? So they're between a full-time and a content hustle, and it's hard to get a hold of them. Similarly, for the content creators who are trying to work with some brands, if the brand doesn't have like a dedicated content or social media or something person, a lot of times they're working with the brand owner, which can be a lot of back and forth. So we resolve that by just being the one point of content for contact for both people. Is the timeline is laid out at the beginning. So if the content creator has any questions, once they've gotten the product, they can just reach out to us and we can solve 99.9% of those without having to contact the brand. Like trying to pass information to the content creator, we can do that. And there's no chasing. There's no like, when is my video coming? We have a very well-defined timeline and all of that.
As a brand, I know I'm very sales minded, that I'm like, I want to pay for this and I want to get sales. Is that, are brands coming to you like that, or are they more open minded saying, I just want 5 good videos? Or like, what is the deliverable that they're actually looking for?
Yeah. So what I tell brands is what you want to look at when you're having on-site content. So in case your listeners haven't seen, on a product listing, when you go to it in the main carousel, there's a video carousel that pops open, right? So that is the placement that we are aiming for with this on-site video. It's basically UGC, or user-generated content, that Amazon allows to live at the top of your product listing. The metric that you want to watch when you add on-site content is conversion, right? Because these are not necessarily content creators who are driving traffic. Some of them do, but the main metric you want to watch is conversion. So we have some research that we've done, case studies with sellers where we've worked directly with them and the content creators, where They had no influencers on there. We dropped 6 videos and their conversion rate jumped so that their sales were like 1.9x month over month, right? So yes, your sales will be impacted, but what you want to watch is that conversion rate. So for example, if you've got a seasonal product, your sales might not go up, but the percentage that you're converting might go up.
And for an influencer or content creator, what is it that they're getting out of this platform? Obviously, they're getting paid, but what is in it for them?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways. One, if we're working directly with the brand, obviously they make a flat fee with us. But the other piece is Amazon pays 1 to 4% on-site commission to these content creators for those conversions.
Well,
Yeah.
so I have to talk about TikTok just shut down. What
Yeah.
online? I'm
Yes.
curious, does that affect you at all? When do you have any other predictions or things that you've seen are changing in the influencer space and what content will look like and what these offerings will be valuable for sellers in the future?
That's a good question. So I think prediction wise, I think TikTok is here to stay. Leading up to the shutdown was, going to be equally surprised if they pulled the trigger and if they didn't pull the trigger. Like it just seems so dystopian when they totally shut it off for whatever 16 hours. But I do think that eventually they'll figure out how to get it to stay. Like one, we in the US are not a majority portion of TikTok's revenue. So I don't know that we necessarily, and that was the last time I looked. So if that has changed, forgive me, but I don't know that we hold as many cards as some people think that we hold for TikTok to basically do what we want. I think the actual people who get hurt if TikTok goes away is small businesses and content creators in the US. That being said, one of the lessons that I think a lot of people learned was making sure that you have multiple streams of revenue, right? Whether that was on the content side or on the product small business side, was making sure that whether it's Amazon, TikTok, wherever, if somebody else owns your platform that you are making sales or making an income off of, that is never guaranteed. So doing things like creating your own mailing list, email list, finding a way so that you can own your traffic at some point is probably the goal that makes the most sense from a long-term perspective. What does that look like? I don't know. For brands, it's a little bit more simple or a little bit simpler. There we go. Than for content creators, right? Just to like own your audience. So that is probably, I think, the biggest learning that people had coming out of it and the prediction. But I think like during it, one of the things that I wondered if it would happen is if TikTok stayed closed, would more people move back over to Amazon influencer for income? Because it's kind of like if you're mixing streams of revenue right now and one of them goes away, you have to refocus that energy somewhere else.
I just looked up. I didn't realize that online. I haven't fully fact checked it, but it says about 70% of their revenue comes from China, and only 20% comes from America. So
Yeah.
the news, whatever that means these days, makes it seem like we own TikTok and we are going to get TikTok. But that's an interesting situation.
I mean, 20% of anybody's revenue would be a hard hit, right?
But if there's a company with a ton of SKUs, how do you recommend a brand kind of dips their toe into the waters here without spending a ton of money on tons of videos and the logistics, which I know you would handle, but what does that look like when a brand comes to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I have a brand that's like, listen, we want to get this across the finish line, we have 6 SKUs, right? You can actually tag up to 3 ASINs in each influencer video and still be eligible for that on-page placement. The fastest way that I try to make the most of people's money is being like, okay, so in each video, let's put 3 ASINs. So then we've got 2 videos for 6 ASINs as opposed to 5 videos, right? And it just very quickly makes it a much easier conversation. The other nice thing about that, because of the way Amazon does their reporting for both sellers and for influencers, I don't have data to back this. However, the nice thing about being able to tag multiple SKUs, especially if all of your products are in the same space, right, is the opportunity to cross-sell. So if you have a dog bone, a leash, and a water bowl in an on-site video, The leash is going to show up on the water bowl and the bone product listings. So where somebody might come directly to your listing for the leash, but they didn't know that you had other products, this is an opportunity for them to immediately see, oh yeah, also they have this. And I know that I really liked this product for my dog last time. So there's the cross sale opportunity. The other opportunity you have is if you're launching a new product, to be able to pair it with your best selling product, right? This is something where like if you have, we've seen this with like the poop bags for the dogs, right? Like you just sell a bajillion of those and then you're getting ready to launch something new in the same space. Being able to do videos for this best selling and tag it also with that new is a good way to drive traffic to the new listing. It does not replace PPC or any of the other launching methods that you're utilizing. It should come alongside those.
And I know pricing probably depends on everyone, but if I am a new seller and I just launched my first private label product, what does that look like in terms of for me to get a couple videos on my first product?
Yeah, I would say average it at about $500. We see, so like there are places where you can go and definitely content creators will do free content for you or exchange for the product, like that kind of range. And then you see as you work into some of the creators who this is their full time, their A+ content, like you know what you're going to get when you send them a product, they're probably going to be closer to $1,000. So like kind of I'm somewhere in the middle, right? Because I handle all of it and you don't have to go shop it and the influencer is not having to also manage you. I kind of land like smack in the middle of that.
Awesome. Well, Liz, this has been super informative and entertaining. If people want to learn more about you and your company, where can they find you?
Absolutely. We'll have a page put together for your listeners and it will be fluencerfruit.com/seller analytics.
Thank you very much.